The crash. The rain hit capital city's industrial outskirts like thrown nails hammering against Bruce's windshield as he tore down the cracked highway, his battered cargo bike rumbling beneath him. Then a scream from the sky, something big, fast, and burning slammed down 2 lanes ahead, shattering asphalt, throwing debris like a bomb had gone off. Bruce yanked the handlebars, skidding sideways into the shadow of a wrecked billboard, heart pounding. He watched the smoking hulk of a small transport shuttle groan and spit sparks. Through the smoke and hissing coolant, a figure staggered out, a woman. No, something else. Her skin was green, curly black hair clung to her temple in wet tangles, her jumpsuit ripped across one perfect hip. She cursed in 2 languages, neither of them polite, before spitting into the dirt. "You mechanic?" she barked, her voice raw but commanding. "Help me." Bruce's lips twitched into a slow, dangerous smirk. "You crash land on my road, wreck my ride, and now you want favors." The woman squared up to him, fists balled tight. "If we stay here," she snapped, "we die here." Bruce liked simple math. And this was simple. He stepped closer. "You want my help," he said. "You work on my terms." She bared her teeth in a snarl that could have been a grin or a threat. "Fine," she said. "Terms." Her tone made it sound like a challenge. Bruce liked challenges. The ground rumbled again from down the broken highway. Pale lights swirled, not rescue lights. "Hunters." "Name?" he asked. "Zuhara," she shot back. He nodded once, short and decisive. "Bruce." "First rule, Zuhara," Bruce said, already moving toward the wreck with her tight on his heels, "you do exactly what I say." She hissed a laugh behind him. "You better be worth it, mechanic." "You'll find out," he said as the burning shuttle loomed in front of them and the hunters closed in from the haze. Bruce felt the fire in his blood rise. This was going to be fun. The fix. Bruce didn't waste time. He vaulted onto the crumpled hull, Zuhara followed, limping. Inside, the shuttle smelled like burnt circuits and desperation. An alarm bleated weakly, then sputtered out. "Engine compartments aft," Zuhara barked, already elbow-deep in a shattered access panel. Bruce grabbed a crowbar from the emergency kit bolted to the wall. He slammed it into the rusted seams, wrenching the crumpled plates loose with brutal efficiency. "You sure you know what you're doing?" he grunted. "I built shuttles before I could drive them," Zuhara snapped, prying at a tangled wire harness. "I fix anything that bleeds oil or spits fire." Their hands moved in a violent, practiced rhythm, bodies brushing constantly in the cramped, sweltering space. The engine's containment housing was warped shut, no tool would open it gently. Bruce pulled a short-bladed torch from his belt, flicked the striker, and a cone of furious blue flame roared to life. He cut into the metal, sparks spitting out, lighting the tight cabin in flashes of dangerous light. Zuhara leaned over him, cursing under her breath, one hand steadying a cable to keep it from catching fire. The heat between them became unbearable, and it wasn't just from the torch. Every time Bruce shifted, her hip brushed against his side. Her hair, damp and wild, clung to the crook of his neck. "You're in my way," she muttered. "You're the one crowding me," Bruce shot back. Zuhara braced her hand against the wall above him, her arm pressed against his shoulder, boxing him in completely. He felt the tension roll off her like a second skin. Bruce sheared off the last strip of warped plating with a final grind of the torch, spilling broken coolant lines and half-melted circuits at their feet. Zuhara hissed something obscene in her language. "Bad?" Bruce asked. "Fatal," she said, voice tight. "The drive core's fried. We're not flying anywhere." A low rumble outside made the walls vibrate. The hunters were getting closer. His voice dropped. "Got anything you can patch it with?" "Some," she said, breathing faster. "Not enough." Bruce turned his head slightly. Her face was inches from his, her dark eyes wide, pupils blown wide in the low light, her lips slightly parted. The burn of wanting hit him hard and fast. She licked her bottom lip unconsciously. "You break it," he said roughly, "you fix it." She grabbed a stripped tool from the wall, forcing herself to focus. She shoved past him, squeezing into the wrecked engine mount. Bruce's smirk deepened. She thought she was taking control back. He let her think it. For now. He ducked beside her, wrenching free a half-melted relay coil. "Need a hand?" Bruce asked, pretending innocence he didn't feel. "I don't need your help," she growled, but her hands were trembling slightly. Bruce saw it. "You're lying," he said calmly. The moment stretched taut between them. Another crash outside. Voices shouting orders in clipped tones. "Time's up," Bruce said, straightening. Zohara ripped her gaze from his, chest heaving. She yanked a jury-rigged capacitor free and shoved it into his hand. "Hook that to the secondary conduit," she barked. "Bossy," Bruce muttered, moving fast. The shuttle groaned as the backup systems flickered on, running just enough juice to power the defensive shielding. Through the cracked viewport, Bruce saw shapes moving, dark figures, green skin flashing under wet searchlights. Bruce slid a glance at Zohara. "You know how to fight?" She yanked a plasma cutter from the emergency rack, flipping it in one hand with feral grace. "You." Bruce cracked his knuckles. "I don't lose." The looters closed in, weapons gleaming. Zohara and Bruce exchanged one look. No more running. The fight. The looters came fast, shouting, weapons drawn. Bruce didn't hesitate, he grabbed a jagged length of pipe from the floor, rolling his shoulders as he sized them up. Zohara crouched low beside him, plasma cutter gleaming wickedly in her grip. 5 of them, maybe 6, all lean, desperate-looking, skin glinting green in the harsh floodlights. One had a sawed-off energy rifle slung low across his chest, another twirled a serrated blade like he couldn't wait to use it. "Plan?" Bruce asked. "Don't die," Zohara said. Bruce chuckled low in his throat. "My favorite kind." The first looter lunged, a big guy, heavy boots thundering on the deck. Bruce sidestepped cleanly, swinging the pipe up in a brutal arc. The impact cracked across the man's skull with a sickening crunch. He dropped without a sound. Zohara ducked under a wild swing, slashing upward with the plasma cutter. A spray of sparks and blood fanned across the wall as her attacker screamed and went down. Another one grabbed Bruce from behind, arms locking tight around his chest. Bruce growled, twisting sharply, slamming his elbow back into the guy's ribs. Chaos erupted inside the wreck. The confined space worked in their favor, the looters couldn't swing wide or use their numbers properly. Bruce and Zohara fought back to back, their bodies brushing with every turn, every strike. At one point, Zohara stumbled, slipping on spilled coolant. Bruce caught her by the waist, yanking her upright in one brutal motion. She gasped, her face turned toward his. "Focus," she snapped. "You first." Bruce growled, shoving her forward as a looter lunged at them with a crowbar. They moved in perfect sync, no words needed. His knuckles were raw, his pipe bent almost in half. Beside him, Zohara wiped the plasma cutter clean on a scrap of cloth, her muscles tight, breathing ragged. Their eyes locked across the wreckage. Zohara took a slow step toward him, boots crunching over debris. Bruce didn't move, letting her come. "You fight well," she said, voice low, almost grudging. Bruce tilted his head, watching her. "You too." Zohara's fingers flexed at her sides. Bruce saw it, the urge to act warring with instinct, pride battling something deeper. He reached up slowly, brushing a knuckle along the curve of her jaw. She shivered. Then the moment shattered. The shuttle groaned under them, another internal system giving out. Somewhere outside, a siren wailed. Zohara jerked back, all fiery pride again. More will come, she said. Worse. Bruce nodded once. We need to move. He glanced at the looters sprawled across the wreck. Take anything useful, then we burn the rest. Zohara's smile was sharp, savage. And after that? Bruce said, grabbing a functioning pulse pistol from a fallen looter's belt. She caught a loaded energy pack, checking it with swift efficiency. After that, she said, meeting his gaze dead on, you're going to help me fix this shuttle. Bruce barked a short, hard laugh. You drive a tough bargain. Zohara smirked, tucking the pack into her belt. You haven't seen tough yet. The heat between them hadn't cooled, if anything, it was burning hotter, fed by blood, sweat, and the raw electric charge of survival. The hunt. Bruce jammed a fresh power pack into the stolen pulse pistol and kicked open the wreck's rear hatch. A gust of freezing night air slapped his face. Beyond the shuttle's flickering shield, Capital City's endless industrial wasteland stretched out, dead machinery stretching like corpses under the storm. Zohara appeared beside him, slinging a salvaged energy rifle over her shoulder. There's a service tunnel about 3 clicks north, she said, wiping grime from her forehead. We get there, we disappear. Bruce snorted. Define, disappear. She gave him a wicked look. Alive. They scavenged fast, power cells, medkits, one battered field drone barely hanging together. Then Bruce tossed a cracked thermal grenade into the shuttle's open belly. That'll get their attention, Bruce muttered. Good, Zohara said. Let them chase ghosts. They slipped into the shadows. The city's pulse grew louder. Bruce matched her pace easily. Zohara moved like she was born for it, a sleek, lethal force of nature in ripped gear and blood-slicked skin. He couldn't stop thinking about the way she had pressed against him earlier, the way she'd melted just for a second before slamming her walls back up. They reached an old freeway overpass, half-collapsed onto the street below. Zohara darted under it, motioning him to follow. That's when everything went dark, the lights across the sector, street lamps, search drones, even the ambient city glow, blinked out in one sickening pulse, plunging them into absolute blackness. EMP, Zohara hissed. Bruce flicked the pistol's charge indicator. No power. Above them, the sharp clank of boots hitting metal echoed. They're here, Zohara said. Bruce barely caught the flicker of movement. The first one dropped down like a knife from the sky. Bruce pivoted, catching the attacker midair with a brutal shoulder slam. They crashed into the dirt, rolling. Bruce grunted, fists finding the guy's ribs and hammering down. But another one was already there, raising a short-barreled shock prod, the end sparking violet. Zohara moved faster, she intercepted the soldier with a sharp, vicious kick to the side of his knee. The bone buckled sideways, the man went down screaming. Bruce climbed to his feet, blood dripping from a split lip. How many? He snapped. More than we want, Zohara growled. The overpass came alive with movement. Tunnel's not far, she said, grabbing his wrist. Bruce didn't argue. They ran. Something fast zipped past Bruce's ear, a throwing knife embedding in the cracked asphalt ahead. He didn't slow down. Zohara yanked him left, down a narrow alley half-choked with rubble. They vaulted a collapsed fence, Bruce boosting her up without thinking, her body pressed against his for a bare second. Bruce followed, landing hard. Another 2 soldiers rounded the corner. The truth. This way. Zohara shouted, pulling him into a half-collapsed maintenance tunnel. Water dripped from rusted pipes overhead, and the stench of decay filled the air. They ran deeper into the labyrinth of service tunnels beneath Capital City. Bruce kept pace, his breathing controlled despite the sprint. Behind them, shouts echoed, getting farther away. Zohara finally slowed, pressing her back against a damp concrete wall. They're not just looters, Bruce said, wiping blood from his chin. Military-grade weapons, coordinated attack patterns. Zohara's jaw tightened. They're from my world. Ricari enforcers. And they want you because. She met his eyes in the dim emergency lights that lined the tunnel. Because I stole something. Something that could change everything. Bruce let out a low whistle. Let me guess, not the shuttle. The shuttle was my escape plan, she said, checking her salvaged rifle. What I stole is here. She tapped a small hidden compartment in her jumpsuit. Data core. Contains proof of biological weapons the Ricari government is developing to wipe out rebels on 3 colony worlds. Bruce stared at her. You're with the rebellion. I was their chief engineer, she said. Until I found out what they were really building in my labs. Understanding dawned on Bruce's face. You weren't running from the law. You were running from your own people. Zohara's expression hardened. They're not my people anymore. Not after what they planned. A distant explosion rumbled through the tunnels. The enforcers were getting closer. There's a resistance cell in Capital City, Zohara continued. If I can reach them, get this data out. Millions of lives saved, galaxy-wide scandal, Ricari government falls, Bruce finished. Neat and tidy. She gave him a sharp look. There's nothing tidy about war, mechanic. Bruce studied her face, the determination etched into every line, the fire in her eyes. He'd been involved in enough bad business to recognize someone fighting for something real. Why tell me this now? He asked. Because I need to know if you're still in, she said quietly. This isn't about fixing a shuttle anymore. This is about saving worlds, Bruce said. He stepped closer to her, their bodies almost touching in the narrow tunnel. I'm not exactly hero material, Zohara. I don't need a hero, she said. I need someone who won't quit when it gets hard. Bruce's hand moved to her face, thumb brushing across her cheekbone. I don't quit, he said, his voice rough. Ever. The tension between them snapped. Zohara surged forward, grabbing the front of his jacket, pulling him down to her. Their lips met in a bruising kiss, all the adrenaline, the fear, the fire, pouring into that single point of contact. Bruce's arms wrapped around her waist, pulling her against him. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Zohara kept her hands fisted in his jacket. That doesn't mean I trust you, she whispered against his mouth. Bruce grinned, dangerous and sharp. Smart woman. A loud clang echoed through the tunnel, followed by running footsteps. The moment shattered. This way, Zohara said, pulling him deeper into the maintenance labyrinth. Resistance outpost is 1/2 kilometer northeast. As they moved, Bruce checked his stolen weapons. So what's the plan? We drop off your data, they extract us. Zohara shook her head. Data first. Then we have to destroy the source. Which is? The main Ricari weapons lab, she said. Hidden in plain sight, under Capital City's energy plant. Bruce let out a low whistle. You don't think small, do you? Go big or die trying, she said with a grim smile. They reached a rusty maintenance door. Zohara tapped a complex pattern on its surface. After a moment, the door slid open, revealing a small, heavily fortified room filled with communications equipment and weapons. 3 people looked up, 2 humans and 1 Ricari with the same green skin as Zohara. Zohara, the Ricari said, stepping forward. We thought you were dead. Not yet, Kren, she said, pulling the data core from her jumpsuit and tossing it to him. Everything's there. Development plans, deployment schedules, test results. Kren plugged the core into their systems. Screens filled with schematics and data. His face paled. It's worse than we thought. I know, Zohara said. That's why we have to move now. Before they can relocate the lab. Kren looked at Bruce skeptically. Who's he? Someone who didn't let me die, Zohara said simply. Bruce crossed his arms. I'm just along for the ride. Kren didn't look convinced but nodded. We've been mapping the facility for months. There's a way in through the old cooling systems. He pulled up a schematic. But it's heavily guarded. We'd need a distraction. Bruce studied the plans. I'm good at distractions. And I know every weak point in that facility, Zahara added. I designed half of it. They spent the next hour planning. The resistance had weapons, equipment, even a working vehicle. As the others prepared, Bruce found Zahara alone, checking an energy rifle. You planning on coming back from this? He asked quietly. She didn't look up. Are you asking because you care or because you want to know your odds? Both, maybe. Zahara finally met his eyes. I never planned to die, Bruce. But I'm prepared for it. He moved closer. And after? Assuming we don't blow ourselves up. After? A ghost of a smile touched her lips. I haven't thought that far ahead. Bruce's hand found hers, fingers intertwining. Maybe think about it. The mission went sideways almost immediately. Their entrance into the facility triggered alarms they hadn't anticipated. Gunfire erupted, resistance fighters falling around them. Bruce and Zahara fought their way deeper into the complex, back to back, moving as one through waves of Ricari enforcers. By the time they reached the central lab, both were bloodied and breathless. Bruce planted explosive charges while Zahara downloaded backup data, her fingers flying across the console. 2 minutes. Bruce shouted as he set the final charge. An energy blast caught Zahara in the shoulder, spinning her around. Bruce roared, emptying his weapon into the doorway where the shot had come from. He grabbed her, pulling her behind cover. I'm fine, she hissed, clutching her wound. Finish it. Bruce activated the detonator. Time to go. They ran through burning corridors, alarms blaring, the facility beginning to collapse around them. They burst through an emergency exit just as the first explosion tore through the lab behind them. The force threw them forward onto the street outside. Bruce pulled Zahara to her feet, and they staggered away as the energy plant above the hidden lab began to crumble. Citizens scattered, emergency vehicles wailed in the distance. The data was already spreading across the galaxy's networks, the Ricari government's secret was out. They found shelter in an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts, where Zahara finally let Bruce treat her wounded shoulder. His hands were surprisingly gentle for someone who had just helped destroy a weapons lab. Mission accomplished, he said, tying off the bandage. Zahara looked up at him, a strange vulnerability in her eyes. And now what? Bruce sat beside her on the makeshift cot. I've got a safe house. Off-grid, 3 sectors away. Nobody knows about it. You offering to share? There was a cautious hope in her voice. Maybe more than that, Bruce said. He took her hand, turning it over in his. I've got a ship, too. Needs work, but it flies. Could get us off-world. Us? Zahara repeated. I told you, I fix things that bleed oil, Bruce said with a half-smile. Never said I was opposed to a business partner. Zahara leaned forward, resting her forehead against his. You're insane. Says the woman who just blew up a government lab. She laughed then, a real laugh, bright and unexpected. Bruce decided it was the best sound he'd heard in years. So, he said, his thumb tracing patterns on her wrist. Partners? Zahara's answer was to kiss him, slow and deep and full of promise. 3 days later, they left Capital City behind, flying Bruce's patched-up ship into the night sky. Below them, the Resistance continued the fight they'd helped ignite. Ahead lay a galaxy full of broken things waiting to be fixed. Bruce glanced at Zahara in the co-pilot seat, her green skin bathed in starlight. She caught him looking and raised an eyebrow. Eyes on the controls, mechanic, she said with a smile. Bruce grinned back. Yes, ma'am. Their ship vanished into the darkness, leaving only a trail of light behind. The end.